Following the COVID-19 pandemic, we've seen a real surge in our patients waiting on our waiting lists. We've seen that waiting list double over the last 12 months.
During the pandemic, we didn't stop at any point, but lots of specialties where surgery was paused are carrying a huge backlog.
We were able to carry on with our cancer and urgent surgery during that time, but what we could not operate on has now accumulated in a vast backlog, and I think that's what we are dealing with at the moment.
You only have so many hours of operating available to you, so we have to become more efficient in other ways, and that will be through getting more patients through the same number of beds.
Prioritising investment in this hospital becomes even more important. We really do need to find innovative and better ways of making sure we operate on those patients as quickly as we can.
Implementing the robotic assisted surgery and partnering with CMR for this trust has been an incredibly successful and fruitful relationship. It has transformed our ability to progress and grow over the next 5 to 10 years.
Open surgery, which is the traditional way of doing most gynecological surgery, involves a cut on the abdomen, on the tummy. Depending on how the cut is put, the healing time and the recovery time is proportionate to that.
So a larger wound will require a longer recovery period, a longer time to stay in hospital, more opioids, and of course for the service, if someone is in a bed for 2 to 3 days more, that's another patient delayed getting into the system and being treated.
With the advent of new technology, for instance, minimal access procedures through keyhole surgery, recovery times have improved significantly.
This has really given patients all over the world a chance to have the surgery with less or very small cut, with minimal pain and quicker recovery.
Over the past 10 or 20 years, where feasible and advisable, we have converted most of our open procedures to laparoscopic or minimal access procedures.
Minimal access surgery brings huge benefits to patients. Reduction by half of complications, reduction of pain, quicker return to normal activity and work. Yet despite that, only 30 to 40% of patients who should be getting minimal access surgery are.
Minimal access surgery for a surgeon can be quite taxing because of the laparoscopic suturing and difficulties with it. I myself had a frozen shoulder and I have to take time off for about 6 months.
A further advancement on minimal access surgery is what's called robotic assisted surgery, which is where you use the robot to help refine your laparoscopic procedure.
Robotic surgery has all the advantages of laparoscopic surgery, such as less hospital stay, minimum pain to the patients, and early recovery.
From our experience, we think that robotic surgery is definitely an advancement on minimal access surgery, especially for the challenging laparoscopic cases.
The wristed instruments are a lot more delicate and precise than conventional laparoscopy. The view you get from the 3D stable platform of the camera is a lot better, and the surgeon has 4 arms instead of your conventional 2, so you're not relying on your assistant as much. And I think when you put all of that together, it allows a surgeon to perform a lot more precise and delicate surgery.
We are probably one of the most technologically advanced trusts in the country. There is an appetite for change and improvement, and being a first adopter, whether it's robotic assisted surgery or electronic patient records, we embrace change.
Within gynecology, we started using the Versace surgical robot in August 2020.
Within the colorectal department, we've been using it for all forms of colorectal resection for both malignant and benign disease. We've performed panproctocolectomy using it, operating across all 4 quadrants of the abdomen and the pelvis without any difficulty.
We wanted to make sure that the new technique we offer is safe for the patients. So both me and my colleague, Ms. Nidhi Singh, we have gone through a training for this procedure.
I was able to take everything from my laparoscopic training and apply it to the Versius itself, and therefore I think it was quite a smooth curve for us to settle in using the robotic systems.
One of the things that we considered before setting up a robotic assisted surgery program here was investment in training, the clinical risks associated with doing that, and ensuring that all of the multidisciplinary team was part of the decision making and were invested in making this a success. We took a business case to our board that set out the benefits around that program, which included benefits to attracting and retaining our staff. It included a reduction of bed days. It also looked at the space that a robotic assisted surgical program would use and how that enabled our organisation to treat the most numbers of patients. In partnering with CMR Surgical, we have seen that not only are we working with a company that is focused on ensuring the best possible patient outcomes, we have seen the investment in the team here to ensure that we attract and retain the best clinicians, and we've seen an even better return on our investment financially than we were expecting to in our business case.
Before we adopted Versius, patients did query, would the robot be doing this surgery on his own? Where is the surgeon going to be? And of course, once we were able to show them some footage of the robot in action, they could see that the surgeon is very much by your side, involved and controlling every action that the robot undertakes.
So since the introduction of the robotic assisted surgery, we have offered more women access to minimal access techniques using the robot. The more complex laparoscopic cases, which I had to routinely open up if I couldn't do them laparoscopically, I am now able to convert those to a minimal access technique using the robot. And I think that's where my biggest advantage lies for me and my patients in terms of the quick recovery that comes with minimal access surgery.
We put a lot of work into the materials and leaflets and information. We had consenting clinics. And what we found is patients were turning up going, I hear that you do robotic surgery here. They understood the benefits, and having a shorter length of stay and minimally invasive, who wouldn't want to opt for that?
Enabling patients to go home sooner with a faster recovery time allows them to get back on their feet and get back to doing what they would normally do, a benefit all round. One of the things that attracted us to the CMR Versius model was the ability to use robotic assisted surgery across a number of specialties. That flexibility has engaged a whole range of clinicians across those specialties and allowed a number of patients across those specialties to benefit from this technology.
With Versius, we got the robotic arms that can be moved from theatre to theatre and also in the same theatre from various places as needed. The other thing I like Versius is that the console is open console, so it's better to communicate with the team.
The kit itself mimics the dexterity of the surgeon's hand, so it was very easy for them to use.
Sometimes we do very long laparoscopic procedures, especially if they're complicated endometriosis, and you can spend about 5 or 6 hours standing up on your feet around the patient with your shoulders and wrists in an awkward position.
Versius instruments are fully wristed and it can be rotated to 720 degrees. So this does help a lot, putting minimum strain on the surgeon's wrists and shoulders.
We have a couple of consultants who suffered from tennis elbow, and being in this position for long periods of time was really, really difficult for them. And before Versius came, they were expecting to retire 4 to 5 years earlier than they would have planned. And one of the consultants had said, "This has just transformed my career. I can stay on another 4 to 5 years."
One of the things that the NHS as a whole can look at from the work that we've done here is how we attract and retain our staff, expand and develop their careers at a time when we know that workforce is a real shortage, that then enable those clinicians to deliver better outcomes to our patients.
Being able to offer our teams the chance to operate robotically has been absolutely fantastic. The training opportunities here at Milton Keynes are now remarkably unique for all of our trainee grades. The surgeons that operate robotically absolutely love it. It's been a fantastic morale builder. We try and get as many people to participate as we possibly can, and it enhances their training journey whilst they're with us here at Milton Keynes.
When one specialty sees colorectal doing it, then, well, are we going to be next? And maybe consultants who would have thought of maybe moving on have said, you know, I'm going to stay on because I can see that it's coming for the rest of us. And it is, because we moved to gynae, general surgery and urology are undergoing their training next week. So it's kept that excitement alive and that momentum and a reason to stay.
It's clear that by investing in new technologies, by investing in CMR Versius, we have been able to attract some outstanding talent to Milton Keynes who might otherwise have gone to other organisations.
We saw an almost immediate impact on our ability to recruit high quality calibre consultants. I think we found ourselves in a position where consultants were contacting us before posts were even available, letting us know that they were interested and almost courting us. So the candidates that we had applying were exceptional. Now surgeons have got this great balance to their life. They can live in a lovely village outside Milton Keynes, driving distance to work, but still having the ability to work with cutting edge technology and providing patients with the very best of treatment that they would get if they went into London. The implementation of the robotic assisted surgery was probably one of the most enjoyable projects I've ever worked on. The company CMR that we partnered with were solution driven. We had intensive support and still do. We're 2 years in and we still have intense support from CMR. They provided world-class training at the Orsay Academy in Belgium. That was very exciting for our consultants, for our theatre staff. It was just a lovely time for the Trust, and to be the first Trust in England to have this as well. I think everybody was on board with wanting to make it work. I think CMR, where they really managed the project well with us, is their involvement with all of the key stakeholders internally. And you don't often get that when you work with large companies.
In addition to the clinical benefits that we've seen, the CMR Versius does enable us to use space in a more effective and efficient way. In every hospital we know space is a challenge. The modular nature of Versius allows us to use it and reuse the space when the robot is not in use.
The kit itself is fully mobile, so we didn't have to make any modifications to our theatre environment. Some specialties work out of a specific theatre and they have specific kit that they need. So the Versius allows us to be able to move into their theatre rather than modifying any estate work within theatre, which is really expensive to do. It was a minimally invasive implementation also for us.
In terms of setting up a new robotic program, I think it probably is more cost effective to spread this across specialities. So if you have 3 or 4 specialities that are using the robot, so that you use the robot every single day of the week to make it a bit more cost effective for the trust, but at the same time delivering the best possible care to the women or the patients that you serve.
There will be a period whereby you have 2 surgeons during their training period, and that may be several months. So you do need to have a waiting list that's well managed so that you can take a bit of a delay for a few months, but for much longer gain in the future.
As part of the robotic assisted surgery case that we took to the board, it set out a saving of 175 bed days for the organisation. What we saw very early on was that we exceeded that number significantly.
Since we've introduced Versius, we've saved 450 bed days as a minimum. We think it's probably more. That benefits the trust because we're able to get more patients through the system. And of course, for a patient to be home earlier, to be up and mobile and eating so soon after your surgery is a significant improvement in patient experience.
Our women are able to return to normal life much faster. The recovery time is typically 2 to 4 weeks following surgery using Versius, as opposed to 3 months previously with the traditional routes.
It has enabled us to offer minimal access surgery to a greater number of patients. So going forward, I think this is only going to get better.
Recently, we had some external visitors from Cranfield University who are human factors experts, and they were observing all of our theatres, and the feedback at the end of the day specifically related to the robotic surgery that they watched, and they noticed that, in their view, the team were working at what they would consider a gold standard human factor situation, the perfect theatre. That's what they had observed. Everybody knew what their role was. They understand what each other's role was, and it was working in sync, and it was just very smooth. And they were in there for about an hour and a half, so they had a lot of time to really observe the natural environment. They were very impressed.
My hopes and expectations of the robotic assisted surgery programme is to see the number of specialties and therefore the number of clinicians involved expand, to see the range of procedures expand so that more patients can benefit from this technology, and ultimately to see this become mainstream across the NHS, because we know the clinical outcomes are really good for patients.
The future is very exciting as we expect and hope to roll this out across more specialties. Now, we mentioned we saved around 450 bed days a year, and that's just with one robot and a couple of specialties. Can we double and triple that? That's where I see it going for us. Our patients have benefited so much in terms of better outcomes, less opioid use, reduction in length of stay. You know, they're going home 2 to 3 days earlier. For us as a trust, recruitment and retention, happier surgeons, we're able to get more patients through the system. So we're really excited for the future. We want to scale this up and roll it out across more specialties so even more patients can benefit from this.
The investment in Versius by the Trust has been far-reaching, not just within gynaecology but in other specialties as well. The benefits to patients are absolutely fantastic, and the team building that it's brought with it is just fantastic as well.
We don't want it to be a postcode lottery and where patients have to travel to get cutting-edge treatment. They should be able to have that on their doorstep, and that's our goal. And then of course we partner with companies like CMR who think exactly like we do.
If there are other organisations out there looking to set up a robotic assisted surgery programme, my advice would be to ensure that firstly, all of the multidisciplinary team is engaged, from theatres through to the consultants themselves, and then invest in training heavily. Make sure that everybody is comfortable, and then my expectation is you'll see the same levels of success that we're seeing here at Milton Keynes.
Within healthcare, there are rarely any silver bullets, but I do feel that Versius has delivered significant benefits for our patients and for the Trust, so it's been a win-win all round.